Yeah, it says it is.
Okay. Can we change the view at all, Fiona? Or do we know how to?
The right-hand corner, you click view, and then if you go gallery, then you can see everybody.
Yeah, that's a little better. Okay.
Okay.
Good noon, everybody.
I'll be in the background, but I won't have my video or sound.
Okay, sounds good.
You're live streaming.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody.
How's everybody doing?
Wonderbar.
Good. How about you there, Adam?
Doing well, thanks.
Good.
How about yourself?
Oh, good. Busy. It's that time of the year. Okay, we better get going here, I guess. So if I could, I would like to open up the Parks and Open Space Committee meeting of Thursday, April 1st, 2021. City of Parksville recognizes the people of the Coast Salish Nations and their traditional territory upon which we gather with gratitude. Can I please have an adoption of the minutes?
Yeah, I'll
Thank
move
you.
that.
Excellent. And approval of the agenda. Which is, oh, thank you, Doug. Okay, great. So we have a couple of things that we wanted to discuss with the committee today. And one of them is many of our parks and open spaces or green spaces have the naming convention is either the road they're beside or a neighborhood they're in, that sort of thing, as opposed to community park, Foster Park. You know, like for instance, Shelley Creek Park has Shelley Creek Park North, South, West. We have Woodland Park that's on Woodland Crescent. We have, is it 2 Warren Ermineskin areas?
Yeah, 2 Ermineskin parks and then a maintenance area, one in the cul-de-sac, Ermineskin Rectangle and Ermineskin Circle. So, yeah. And there's also Shelley Road Park, as well as the 3 Shelley Parks at the top of Corfield.
So what we're looking for is some, I guess, is some guidance or some conversation on what you think would be is that fine? Are we good with that? Or should we be exploring opportunities to name these parks after, you know, significant contributing members of the community? You know, do we name them after former mayors? Do we name them after people that were robust volunteers in our community or something of that nature, where it gets a bit confusing just even to myself with the Shelley Creek parks. So we're looking to see what the committee recommends towards some kind of naming convention for these spaces. Are we happy with just calling it Hamilton on Hamilton Road, or would we rather have that space named after Councillor Frass? I don't know. So that's sort of what I'm wondering now. If and I know Warren does have a list of how many of those spaces we have that are not named with any true convention other than from where they're located within the community. Warren, are you able to share how many of those spaces there are?
Yeah, when we're talking here of official parkland, we have a lot of maintenance areas and green spaces and road right-of-ways that we kind of consider parks but aren't officially parks. We officially have 59 parks, but 8 of them are named. The rest of the parks are named after the location, as Guy was speaking to, the neighborhood, Rectangle Park, Woodland Park, Maple Glen Park, and Maple Glen. A lot of it is named for mapping purposes, so it's just like somebody wanting to tag a name on our map. The linear walkway in Cedar Ridge that runs from Wrens Road to Church Road, the name on the map is called Park on Church. That's the name of that park. So a lot of the parks haven't been officially named. They're just generally named as a convenience for mapping purposes.
So I guess our question is should should staff be exploring the option of looking at different opportunities for naming conventions for some of these areas? You know, one of the recommendations in the Parks and Open Space Master Plan was to sign and add addresses for both, you know, for security and for emergency services to show up to attend sites, that sort of thing. As well as to delineate it a little better than just the name of a space. And even it's an opportunity to honor, as I said earlier, contributing members or outstanding people within the community. Open for discussion, please. Councillor O'Brien.
Yeah, thanks, Guy. I understand your bit of a dilemma when it comes to multiple names for the same park as for the Shelley Road, Shelley Creek, Shelley Farm, you know, Shelley Estuary. So the thing is that I understand that and I get that, but I know recently there was a park, one beside Bellina School, became Nichols Park. I think for after a pioneering family in that particular area, and I understand that, and I get it. I don't think it probably had a name at all, other than maybe Pym Street Park or whatever. But the thing is that I'm definitely in favor of doing some naming of the ones that are confusing, that have multiple names for the same areas. But whereby as you have a name like Hamilton Park is on Hamilton Avenue. So the thing is that I think that's adequate or satisfactory in this case. The other ones and so forth, I'm a little, reluctant to go naming after, say a family or politicians or, you know, someone of note, a volunteer or something like that, because it always comes with a little bit of controversy, you know, because the thing is that, you know, some politician could be well loved or some family could be well loved, but there's another side of the story. And we're all seeing what's happening now in Canada with you know, like tearing down of the John A. Macdonald statues, that type of thing. Oh, at the time, you know, the council at the time thought it would be a perfectly good thing to call that park, or, you know, the John A. Macdonald Park, or a statue, you know, in recognition. And then things change, that comes out in the past or something, maybe that wasn't such an illustrious individual after all. And then we get all into that. So I'm a little wary of that. And I would think, instead, my own personal opinion, I think if we stuck to like either a particular feature of the park, like in the case of Shelley, you know, like you're going to say, okay, this one's Shelley Creek. And then the other one across the road might be, you know, Trail Drive, you know, something like that, you know, and just to keeping it, I think it's important that you differentiate for emergency crews and so forth, and for mapping is very important as well. But I'm a little, you know, I have some misgivings about naming it after what we consider this particular. There are very worthy individuals, I get it, but I'm just a little wary of the whole situation right now, and I think it would be more like to feature that park, and for the crews and for other people, if you say, well, that's a Hamilton Avenue Park, well, and then you're just new to the area and you say, well, that obviously must be up on Hamilton Avenue, so that's helpful. You know, but where you run into multiple names, I think that it definitely would go to something, you know, and, you know, leave it to yourself. So something, you know, maybe there's a sequoia tree in that park, you name it Sequoia Park or something like that, to differentiate it from all the other Shelleys. But that's just my thoughts, guys. I understand totally that and so as far as signage goes, like for like Cedar Ridge along Retegno and so forth, the trail that goes through there, it's just trail and Cedar Ridge, you know, maybe that should be the Cedar Ridge Park. You know, the thing is that Maple Glen is the Maple Glen Park for that particular neighborhood. And I don't know, I think that has a nice ring to it. You know, Cedar Ridge Park has a nice ring. Maple Glen has a nice ring to it. Retegno is a bit of a mouthful. But the thing is that, you know, just the idea being is that naming is okay. And I think in most cases, the road or the area or the neighborhood would be satisfactory. That's just my thoughts, guys.
And thank you very much. And I appreciate that. And it's not uncommon by any means to have, parks named for a geographical location or whatnot. And the confusing ones and the repetitive, and parks of significance, Springwood is one that, of significance. And then we have Marks Nature Park and Community Park, Foster Park, right? And so I can appreciate those. And it was just something that we wanted to get some direction on what is the recommendation of the committee? Do we want to go to, I know we report into council and what our recommendation is from here is just leave it as is, or do you want us to explore that? And I appreciate your comments on that. I concur. So Councillor Frass, would you like to expand on any of that for us?
Yeah, I agree by and large with Councillor Bryan. The confusing ones, maybe there's an opportunity there to look at renaming them, but for the most part, location being for the names, like I think it makes a lot of sense. People understand where they're at, and same thing too for, like, let's say emergency services, the ambulance or the fire department. It's easy for them to respond and know where they're going. If they had a individual's name for a park, I think it would be, it takes a lot, it's a lot more taxing to try to figure out where and remember where that park might be. For the ones that perhaps do need to be renamed, though, if there's multiple Shelley parks, or if it's confusing, because I don't think a lot of people connect Shelley Park with actually where it is. I think they for the most part assume it's down on Shelley Road and not up at the top of Corefield. But so for renaming things like Shelley Parks or any multiple names like that, I think maybe there's an opportunity to go to the public, ask them for some ideas of what they would like to be called, or maybe have them have a choice of some names that they can then select it. If you shortlist a few choices, that way the community gets some input, and we're not deciding for them as to what their neighborhood park should be. They get to decide, because
That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, I like that idea of going to the community that the park is actually located in, and as Councillor Frass has suggested, is have a list of names, like suitable, appropriate names that you think would be good, and just leave it to the community. Say, pick one of these. What would you like it to be? That's a great idea.
And then majority rules kind of idea or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
exactly.
Now, are you able to make a recommendation to council that we explore that opportunity? Is what we're seeking, is that, we leave that as far as our naming protocols, that where we have multiple areas named similarly, that we would like to get some engagement on that and to find out what folks would like to call it in their neighborhood. Is that something that we could ask to be done?
I think that's very reasonable. Yeah, we can every council meeting following Parks and Trails meeting, Councillor Frass and I are asked to do a report on it type of thing. We could certainly include in that report a notice to council anyways, just to suggest that we can put it in the form of a motion type of thing, and that way we can have discussion on the floor with all council members participating.
And see if we can get a resolution.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the safest thing that we do. And we could, we still have time. Councillor Frass, what do you think? We try for April 7th?
I don't see why we couldn't put a recommendation forward like that. I think you would leave it up to staff, though, to identify which ones were needing that kind of looking at being renamed, though. And then maybe bring us forward that list so that we could see, just so they understand it's not that every park is going to be going under a renaming or a need for it.
I think, that's a good point. Maybe April 7th could be pushing it because of the holidays. We don't have enough time to get our notices of motion in time for this one. We have another meeting 14 days later, right? So
it'll be on the 19th, sir, after that.
Yeah, so maybe if you could maybe put a list of ones where there's conflicting names that, like the Shelley situation, that would be helpful. And if you could submit that either to ourselves type of thing, then we could in turn submit that to Kiva, and we could put it in the form of a motion at that time. But a notice of motion, sorry.
Notice of motion, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Great.
Warren, do you have any discussion on this?
No, I think that that's enough of a mechanism for us to fix the few parks that are a bit of an issue, and just move forward with locations with the other ones. I think is probably, clear and easy for us. So makes it a bit easier to proceed with signage now that we have clarification on naming. That's not very helpful.
Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, perfect. I do have a couple of additions for new business, if I may. Two things. One is sort of an FYI for information. And then the second is it came up a little late after we sent out the agenda. We wanted to flesh it out a bit. The urban forest strategy has been awarded to Diamond Head Consulting. And we're extremely pleased to be working with Diamond Head Consulting. Well, I am for sure, and I believe Warren is. I've worked with them in the past. They're a leader in the mapping of urban forestry and the presentation of and the building of strategic plans to look forward 10, 15, 20, 25 years on how to canopy retention, increasing canopy coverage, best management practices, best growing practices, how do you handle infrastructure conflicts, so hard surfaces such as sidewalks, pipe infiltration. They've won all sorts of awards, and we had a kickoff meeting this morning, just sort of clarifying expectations and goals and what we need next steps to go forward. And I just thought I would share that. Both of you were instrumental in us getting this forward through to council last year and getting the kickoff here early. So we're really quite excited. And so over the next year, we'll be having some council engagement. We're really hoping that our entire world obviously improves, but here in Parksville specifically, that we're able to have some in-person engagement before too long into the fall. Being able to get to a point where we're able to set up a table or a booth or something that we can share and gather information from folks rather than doing everything online, through our Let's Talk Parksville and targeting people specifically. So I just wanted to share that. It's quite an exciting piece for us from Parks perspective. It's the next piece of the puzzle we think we needed to bring forward and how we're going to manage our urban forest and keep providing sort of a natural asset management goal. And I had a really good, robust conversation surrounding that this morning, that it's everything from aquifers to the foreshore to, all of our green space and every bird and bee that floats around. And so, yeah, it's going to be a great document, but I just wanted to share that we've started down the path. And so in the next year, we're going to have lots of work, but we're going to end up with a good guiding document to take us somewhere that's good for the community. Sir.
Yes, thanks, Guy. Just for my own notation, the name of the company that was awarded the contract again, please? There was a Diamond
Head Consulting.
Diamond Head.
Yep.
Coming all the way from Hawaii, are they?
Nope. All the way from Burnaby.
Okay, Diamond Head in Burnaby. I never knew that. Okay, that's great. What is the approximate timeline that we're looking at from start to finish? I like the idea of getting some public engagement when we have a little bit of information to share. That's great. But you're suggesting that you say for the next year type of thing. Are we going to get like a final report, or are we going to get some juicy tidbits to keep us interested through the year?
You'll get some juicy tidbits. So it's going to be, the global pandemic, of course, has affected a lot of these type of, the creation of this document is quite, it's based a lot on consultation with staff, our development community, with council, and of course with the residents, right? And so they've had to sort of adjust, and that was one of our decision factors that was put into the RFP was we're looking for innovative ways to approach during this pandemic to have engagement, and they've come out with a pretty good plan. We're going to flesh it out more, but it's going to be 10 to 12 months to hit the completion of the document. There will be some milestones. They're going to give me a new, after our conversation today, I'll be receiving an updated timeline. You know, a lot of it, they'll be over here ground truthing. A lot of it's done through LiDAR. So LiDAR is sort of a geocortex light. We had a conversation about this before, I do believe. You know, they use light to be able to tell what species of tree they are. They can tell the height, they can tell the diameter, the percentage of the crown slope and crown size. They can then estimate the carbon sequestering ability, all that sort of thing. And then they come over and they actually put boots to the ground. And what they do is ground and then do ground truthing to ensure that what they're extrapolating from, I guess, the electronic data is accurate. So they'll be in and about in the community, and engaging with, again, like I said, with council. They'll be seeking your goals and what the vision is, and then providing, at one point, we'll have a couple of documents to come forward for council to vet before we go further. So yeah, should be good.
That sounds really exciting. Yeah, I'm pleased that it's going ahead this quickly, and that you've gotten the consultant in place. That's a big first step, and thank you for taking this on so early, because this kind of segues into, I had a meeting with a neighborhood group anyways a week ago, and they were talking about the lamenting regarding the where there used to be a forest in their neighborhood. It's not a forest anymore, because it was private land type of thing, and it was clear cut and developed, and that's fine. You know, there's a lot more families that are living in that area now. But now they're saying that, you know, we used to have a forest in here, and this council approved the subdivision and so forth of this area, and is there any plan for more trees? And so it's kind of, I immediately thought of, well, we have an urban forest strategy coming up. So I explained that briefly, that because it had been passed at that point, and I said, you know, that's going to be looked at very robustly, and they were quite happy about that. And they said, but you know, that's why I was asking the timeline here, because they're asking, you know, when's that going to happen? So I'm not sure whether I should report back to them and just suggest that, you know, it's going to happen in the next year and there will be some public engagement, or is it something that the parks department, yourselves gentlemen, could look at? You know, the area is Parker's Place, not far from the public works yard there, in behind Serious Coffee. So the big meeting was about in behind Serious Coffee, and they've got it's a drainage pit there, but there's no trees on that whole place. It's Northwest Bay Road coming out to Arbutus, and then it goes, and then it's to 19A, runs in front of Serious Coffee. So that's the neighborhood that they were concerned about. Where Parker's Place was the big forest, and now it's all gone, and there's new people there. And there was an original plan for the developer that went into that. There was supposed to be trees along the boulevard, I believe on Arbutus and Northwest Bay Road. I'm not really sure what happened there, but they got eliminated. And the neighbors that were promised those trees weren't too happy about that. And so we kind of took some criticism on that, even though we didn't approve the subdivision originally. It doesn't matter. We're here now. And so they said, where are the trees? And so, and luckily in Parker's Place itself, the subdivision itself, most homeowners have planted their own trees, or I don't, you know, yeah, they have a wide trees in their front yards and backyards. But on the boulevard is where they were worried about. It was, quite frankly, the people that Mobile Home Park that's right adjacent to it. There's no trees at all along that whole stretch there, and behind on Northwest Bay Road, and even something that would screen what's known as the Telus work yard, where there's a chain link fence in behind the Arbutus or the Heritage Village shopping center. There's nothing there, and it's a bit of an eyesore. So, you know, I mean, these people are now members of our community. They say, is there anything you guys can do about that? So the question is like, should we wait for an urban forest strategy to identify this as like looking like, whoa, this neighborhood needs some attention? Or is it something our Parks Department could go by and have a look at to see if there's any way that they can add any trees in that area? I'm just throwing it out there, guys. I just wasn't quite sure the reaction to give to these people.
Thank you for that. I think we're best served. We have our planting sites chosen for this year for our typical planting that we do. So we're replacing a bunch of trees that we lost. Some of the trees around the civic site there at City Hall, we had, some of the birches that were removed and due to the bronze birch borer, we're replacing those. We've had some other trees that had to be removed and some street trees due to failure as well that we're going to be working on there. And we've notified residents and we're going to be going forward with that planting. We have some that are going in and some of our other green spaces as well. One of the things that we will get out of an urban forest strategy, or we will be getting out of our urban forest strategy, is going to be canopy cover target goals. And they're going to help us paint out a picture of how we're going to achieve those goals. And one of those, they will put in sites that are ripe for the planting, and then we'll have to put a plan in place of how we're going to go about to do that. And whether those are going to be street trees that make that up or park trees, or if it's going to be in green spaces, where we put in a lot of small seedlings, that sort of thing, and coach them through, or is this going to be, we're going to, more of a reforestation effort will obviously have bigger impact than individual trees that we're going to put along homeowners' frontages. With that said, it's never a bad thing for us to go out and have a look at some of these new developments and see what's going on. I'm surprised to hear that street trees were removed from, I thought it was a condition of development was to have is it not, Warren? I'm not totally up to speed on that as much as I should be perhaps, but.
I think that development in particular, it's not even the current development engineer with the city that managed that one. It was the previous one. My understanding is that it's been a while, so I might be incorrect, but it's the road standard that may have been changed or was not suitable for street trees. We only have street trees on certain standards. I believe that Diamond Head will be looking at our specifications and making recommendations. And honestly, the best bang for the buck for the city is to require those trees through development, and then we take on maintenance afterwards.
Right. Yeah. And as I understand it anyways, it was exactly as you described, Warren. I know the individual in the parks or in Parksville that was responsible for it. And the developer somehow got it into, I think it's called resort drive standard type of thing. So they had concrete was planned originally type of thing. And then they had it, I guess, relegated down to resort standard, which was gravel or chip gravel or something like that. And I know the neighborhood was infuriated with that because the gravel that's in that particular area is horrible. Nobody walks on it. It's an ankle twister. Everybody walks on the road because the thing is that was supposed to be. And I was disappointed at the time. I also know the engineer, the private engineer anyways, that managed that little bit of stick handling to have that happen. So because, anyhow, it is what it is. But if it's something that you can go by and have a look at as well, I think that would be a good response that I can give the neighborhood area type of thing. And it's been that way for like a couple of years now. So I'm certainly, I think if I say the urban forest strategy is coming out, and we'll make sure that they look at this area, and they'll be okay with that.
Yep, they'll capture that for sure. And one of the things that we're gonna get out of the UFS as well is going to be detailed sort of design specifications that we can take forward that are going to tell us the true soil volumes that we need to have. When you see the architectural picture they draw of some homes being put in, the trees are big and there's birds flying around and everything else and people walking or sitting on benches, and we put the trees in and they never get that big because they don't have the soil volume that they need to grow the canopy. And so that's some of the stuff that's going to come forward with recommendations for downtown core residential applications, how these trees, once they get to this piece of how they're going to the size that we need to sequester carbon and do all the benefits and the stormwater interception and all that. And we'll definitely be in the next, I would think, with council's endorsement in the next 5 years forward, we're going to be planting lots of trees, I hope. So, it's a good thing. And as well as they'll come forward with best management practices when it comes to development and how do we encourage so the retention of trees where it makes sense. and where it can work for a developer as well as the city and the residents or the commercial property. So there is going to be quite a bit of new ideas coming our way, I think, and sort of industry best practices, if that makes sense. So I'm sure while we can't just run out and plant trees everywhere right now for as much as we would like to, we will make a plan and work that plan. So that's our goal. I think I can speak for Warren, is we're both very passionate about getting trees in the ground and serving our citizens. And you know, and we see a shift in the demographic, and we see a shift in what people want. You know, I was reading the OCP the other day, just reflecting on a few things, and people don't want concrete and asphalt anymore. They want trees and trails and green spaces, right? And you know, so it's what's very exciting for parks guys. So I think this is going to be a very seamless document that gets a lot of people excited and really helps us achieve some tangible goals. So if there's no more discussion on that end, Councillor Frass, please.
I just have curious, what kind of public information do we have out there for this this urban forest strategy going forward? Let them know now that we have a consultant on board there, and kind of some of the targets, and that there will be chance for public consultation in the fall. Do we have any information posted on our city website that people can be directed to? Because like Councillor Bryan, I have quite a few people that reach out to me and let me know how they want to see the nature protected in our community, and I get some comments back that kind of say things like, Parksville, we're not doing anything towards protecting the trees and that, and I know it's not true, and then I try to direct to some information that can show them the kind of work that we're currently doing. So I'm wondering if we can keep them up to speed as to where we're at, or if there is anything right now there on the city website showing that.
So from the kickoff today, one of the things that we did discuss is the short-term work plan for April and May for the consultant, and so in April the community engagement plan will be prepared and will be ready to go. So it will be on Let's Talk Parksville. So people will be able to follow through as the plan progresses. They'll be able to voice concerns. They'll be able to, and the consultant's very good at engagement. They're going to support the engagement with various graphics, with some LiDAR that leading to show what they're actually doing, what some of the tangible benefits are of the program itself, or of the steps going through to create the document. So there's nothing yet, as I said. So today was just the first kickoff meeting, but that's going to start coming very rapidly. We're going to start with staff interviews before April is out, and that'll be both park staff and senior team. So we can pick everybody's brains, find out what the hot topics are, and the strengths and weaknesses of what we have. So I would think that in the beginning of April, I've talked with the manager of communications, Deb Tardif, this morning about it, and conveyed back to the consultant already that they can start developing the Let's Talk Parksville documents to go up onto the website. And we'll do a release.
Could you let us know when those things are available?
100%. Yeah. You bet.
And for the guy, if we could, to what Councillor Frass has said about that, we need to get the message out. And the thing is that Parksville is under a huge development growth period, and it's amazing and it's wonderful, but it's also frightening to a lot of residents and so forth at the same time. And so, and I'll be quite blunt here, not a lot of people do not use the Parksville website or even the Let's Talk website, the people that are doing this, because I do a fair bit of walking, and some people ask me some questions, and I said, I said, that's all on the Let's Talk website. I said, there's a huge, it's actually a very good site and very, very doable. And they said, no, I want to talk to you. And I said, well, that's fine. I'm more than happy to talk about it. But the thing is that they say, well, why can't you get this information? And I said, it's there. But they say, no, they don't want to have to like go into like a Parksville website and just check, well, see what's happening. They don't really seem to be doing that. But what I'm thinking is that I think that this is an important enough strategy or an initiative here that I think like Debbie Tardif's department is really got a lot going on for it as far as graphics go. But I'm thinking like, why don't you take out a half-page ad in the paper type of thing in the PQ News and in full color and pay for it and say, this is what Parksville's new urban strategy is going to look like. And this is what we hope to do. And Guy, you just said, one of your statements, just like, we're going to plant a whole bunch of trees in Parksville in the next 5 years. Well, that's exactly what the public needs to hear. And they don't need to hear it from politicians like Councillor Fraz and myself, because we're just politicians, of course. We'll say anything. But the thing is that reality is, if it's in the paper, that the thing is that we have actually got this in place. And this is really an exciting. I believe we should go for a full color print ad. Look at the effect that I have to say Berwick residences have been doing a lot of half page. Their response has been phenomenal. I have people talking to me about, my gosh, this is such a beautiful spot, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, where did you see this? They said, oh, it's in the PQ News. They had like a full page ad. I said, yeah. I said, that was pretty classy, wasn't it? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, that's what's happening. That's what we're getting here type of thing. And so they got that message loud and clear, and they stopped me on the street and say, that's a great development. And I say, well, thank you. But, it was really because they took the time, Berwick residences took the time to do that. I think that we should really take the time. We should spend $1 or $2 and take out a half-page ad, made it glossy, and let Debbie Tardif and her very imaginative staff come up with something. And it's all about the trees here. But you're saying it, Councillor Fraz and I know it, but the thing is that the people across the street from me right now don't know it, because I just wore it last night for what's happening, not far from where you're sitting right now, all the clear cut that's going on up there. So the thing is that we need to say that, listen, development can work as well as a proper tree strategy. And we're not just talking about it. You've hired somebody. So
Right.
I think we got to go full on this one, guys.
Okay, understood. And I'll have further conversations with the manager of communications, Ms. Tardif, about that for sure. And the plan will only be as good as the engagement we receive as well, if that makes sense. We need to have a good broad base, and you take an ad out, and we're gonna social media it. We're gonna we'll have a very aggressive approach to it. And I like your idea of the paper ad kind of idea. And I'll talk with Ms. Tardif about that. I would still think in the end, we're going to direct people back to Let's Talk Parksville as well, to a certain extent. That's going to have where we're going to load all our documents. That's where the progress will be at. That's where people can see previously asked questions. And it's a fantastic, platform for engagement. I've used it in the past before, and for an urban forest strategy, and it was unbelievable. How it kept track of people's requests and concerns and comments, and people can track where they're at in the process of the creation. So, but yeah, no, I agree. I think we need to go at this with a full court press and make sure that we get it out there and get the benefits from the community and everybody knowing that it's there, and if they so choose to be involved in the engagement, that they have that opportunity. Right.
So, and that could be included in the full page ad. Like go also to the Let's Talk site.
100%.
For current updates. That's exactly, it's going to point, but they're going to see it in a big newspaper ad.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's great. That would be a good way to launch this new strategy.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Frash, can we move on?
Yeah, we can move on. I agree with Doug. An ad, I think, would be wonderful to do. So I don't know if you need us to put forward like a recommendation to council and get their approval for that, or what you need, but I would like to see an ad go out. I
don't think so. I think operationally we can make those decisions. you know, it never hurts to, when you do your report back in of the minutes of the meeting to, you know, obviously we talked about it just to keep that going. And I think more people probably watch the full council than they watch us. So as exciting as we are, but so yeah, the more we get it out there, the better, gentlemen. So for sure. Staying to that same agenda, or sort of to the same, I guess, to the same idea here is the chipping program. So the city of Parksville has been offering residential chipping to residents for years. Used to be operated by in-house staff with their in-house chipper. This is where folks are allowed to put a stack of branches and tree limbs and that sort of thing out in front of their home, and we come along and we pick it up and we chip it. So over the last, what do we say here? Say since 2017, 2017 and 2018 and 2019, the costs were pretty static, sitting around $15,000. That were the bids were coming in somewhere in that area. When we went out for RFP, we would have between 3 and 6 proponents bidding. We started to see an increase in hours coming on board in 2019. Last year in 2020, it went up quite a bit, an increase again. This year was a significant increase. We did put in a spending package request or not a spending package, but we did do a request to the operating budget for this program. And we had 2 quotes this year that came in. And one was, I believe, 3 times higher than our budget. And the other was about $5,000 over our budget from last year. Was it, Warren, or 7?
What kind of perspective, can you give us a little perspective as to what the budget was when you say 3 times over or 5,000?
Yeah, so the budget was around $15,000 is what we had budgeted to run the program. We asked, and because seeing what we had seen in the past, we kept getting a new company. Every year it was just like a new company would come in, and they'd come in perhaps underbid so they could get their foot in the door, get into the community, that way they're being seen not only by us, but by the residents, and they can solicit work as well that way. So we went from 15 last year. We asked for an increase of 5,000 this year to 20, and the low bid this year came in at $22,600. So from my knowledge, in past municipalities that I worked at, we did the same service. We performed it, and then council made the decision to stop, no longer provide that service. I look at it as kind of a RDN, I don't know, like they do our solid waste, they do our food waste, they do our recycling. I know there's lots of talk right now recently about recycling, and how far people from our Oceanside area have to go to recycle some items now, and they're looking at that. They're looking at commercial and industrial green waste and or food waste. I'm just posing to you both, is this something that we want to continue going down this road? Like, should we go to council and ask, should staff continue to explore continuing on with this program? We look at the number of homes out there that are actually utilizing it, and we're figuring in the 20 to maybe the upper end 30%, if that. Is that not sort of one of the figures you're looking at, Warren? Is in that area that 25%, if that?
I think that even 20% may be generous. I mean, it's hard to do numbers until you're right out there in the midst of it. But there is a lot of opportunity to. There's not a lot of piles out there. So
yeah. So I guess so. The conundrum for us is this year we got two came in, and the second one, so the one at 22.6, the other one was about 42,000. I'm hesitant to. It makes me nervous for next year. This is again the company that was awarded the. We don't know. We don't familiar with them. So we vet them, and they have all the documentation. We know they have the insurance, of course, and their business license, and they're WCB compliant. They have a safety program. Like they're a good company. It's just eventually we're going to run out of these folks, and the typical people that would provide this service. It's hard on equipment. So a lot of the operators tend to not want this. That's why you'll see they go through a lot of blades on their chippers. It's hard on their equipment because there's always rocks and stuff in there and detrimental. So we're seeking some guidance from.
Do we have the people who have done the contract in the past? Do they come back and renew for the contract, or is it always a new operator each year?
Warren has more information than I on that, but.
Yeah, I would say the past 5 years, back to 2017, I'm not sure when we changed from contractor from in-house, but I don't believe we've had the same contractor any subsequent year. As Guy said, they do a bid in order to kind of get our attention, get some business, get some exposure. And then the majority of the other bids that come in that same year are significantly higher, not at quite as high as this year has been, but usually there's a spread of 3 to 6 companies that are bidding. And again, this year there was only 2. So I think that because there isn't any interest in coming back to do the job again, that we are in danger, and being a $15,000 budget last year, moving up to almost $23,000 budget this year is a significant increase. And if we didn't have that bid, then what would we have done if we'd only had the one bid at 42?
And I think it's kind of a bit of I'm curious to see what other communities are similar to our size or even adjacent to us or local still offer this service.
Sure. I can tell you right now, Qualicum does 2 pickups a year still. I'm pretty sure. Is that true, Warren? Do you know the Qualicum guys? But
I think so, but you do notice a lot of municipalities are dropping off. But then I've also had a call, I forget, from someone down Island asking about our program and how we manage it here. So it's
right.
kind of they fade in and they fade out. I guess it's just whether that's something that's still at this point that the city wants to offer residents.
I think, as I recall, Warren might. Parksville used to have 2. We used to have a fall and spring garden waste pickup. A few years ago, I don't know, maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, maybe they went only just a once a year pickup, which was fine. It met with some resistance, but people got onto it, and that's the way it is. Your 20% rate is probably right on, Warren, anyways, because if you look around, the 20% would probably represent the amount of people that are actually very active gardeners in our community. And so that was probably good. The other thing that is interesting, I just did the calculation here, 15,000 to 22, is just over 40%. So the thing, a 40% increase from 15 to 22.6. So the thing is that is exactly what the construction rate increase has happened in the last year, is 41%. That's from the Construction Association. So the thing is that what you're seeing is not out of the ordinary, and I think that's a sign of the times. My own personal feelings, I think it's a great program, and I think we should stick with it on the once a year, just exactly as it is, and recognize the fact that it's going to be increased cost. I have been around just this week, and I thought, it must be getting close, because I saw the piles on a couple walks I did.
Yeah.
Up towards yesterday's walk was up towards Cedar Ridge or Tagnell, and so I got to see lots of piles out there. But you're probably 20% of the residences, but they're all out there. They all got them pointing the right way. So I thought, okay, good for you guys. But at the same time, I recognize that it's going to go up in price. The thing is that everything's going up in price right now, folks. it's going to be huge, and it's going to be right across the board. So all we have to do is brace for it. We just finished our budget work, and I can tell you right now, as far as I'm concerned, we can afford it. So we carry on the service to our residents. I think it's a worthwhile program, and I think it helps off a lot of people, particularly in our demographics, where people continue to garden, but they don't have the strength or the equipment, like a pickup truck, to take it to the garden waste refuge places. They can't do that anymore. They just pass that stage, but they can get it out to their curb, but they can't. So they do appreciate that this is done. So my own point of view, I say stick with it and just brace and budget for increases as we go.
It might be something that maybe we'd have to obviously put through a spending package perhaps for next year, and identify that this is, here's our well that we're going to draw from to run this program.
Right.
Something along that line. And don't get us wrong. Warren and I are supportive either way of whatever council so chooses. Right. That's we're just identifying that this is something that's come up that we have a bit of whoa, it's been trending to not being a static, it's trending up, and it's getting more difficult to find qualified proponents that are willing to do the work, right? So and hence, like you said, all of a sudden now it's gone up 40%, and even somebody else coming in at that higher cost, that maybe next year it might all be that cost. That's cost of doing business. And if that's businesses we're offering, then we're going to have to be prepared to meet those ends. So
yeah, but I remember being on the other end, being those contractors sending in bids, and yes, you always, every time you had that opportunity to send in a bid for something, and you would definitely highball the bid, and you'd be thinking like, we're way too busy to do this, but if we get this bid at this rate, we're not going to pass it up. And so
if I get it. Yeah,
absolutely. And so the thing is, you continue to bid on it so you can stay on the bidding list, but at the same time, you're going to highball it because you may have to hire more staff just to get it to happen. So I think that's just a sign of the times. And I think we as council, we get criticized an awful lot for what we do spend money on, and a lot of the ones are saying, like, oh, you're spending an awful lot of time doing this and do that, whether it's on social programs or whatever it is, type of thing. But when are you going to do something for the residents? When are you going to do something for the little people, and so forth? And I hear that, and I get that, and I think that's very good. It's all great to have great ambitions to create more affordable housing and everything like that. But the people that are here paying those taxes, type of thing, they say, that's very nice that you guys are doing that, but at the same time, we're the ones footing the bill here. So I have to appreciate that. So the thing is that to me, it's a service that we provide to our residents, and I think it's worthwhile.
Thank you. Councillor Frost.
I got to say, I think like anything, there's got to be a point though where a line gets drawn. I wouldn't agree that if we get bids that are 2-3 times the budget amounts that we carry forward with them. I understand that some contractors will put in those highball bids and go, if we get it at this price, then of course we'd be stupid not to take it. But if that happens too much, then it kind of becomes the new norm of what the bidding price goes for. So I do think it's like we got to understand what our costs are. We're willing to pay for it. We can account for the inflationary that is reasonable. If there is things like, if it's the new construction cost at 40%, if that's the new standard, then I think it's appropriate. But if bid comes in high above what we're really willing to pay, then I see it no different as if we didn't have anyone come in to offer and respond to our requests for it. What would we do then? We wouldn't be able to offer this service. So I think if the unreasonable costs come in, then maybe it's a year that we can't do it. If there aren't any operators willing to take on the contract, we aren't able to offer that service. I wouldn't recommend reaching out to the RDN to say the RDN take it on. I think that is a guaranteed way to raise the costs massively. Just because at that point, then we start paying administration fees on top of it just to have somebody else handling it. And then in that case too, I mean, then you do start getting the higher bids come in, and we're still stuck paying for it. So I don't see that having any advantage to try to have RDN do it, because we still pay for the RDN services like that. nominal increase, I could see it going for it. But like I say, I wouldn't want to see 3 times the price and us just go, okay, well, let's suck it up just so we can continue to do it. Especially for if it's such a small minority of the population at 20%, that's, where do we draw the line? So I think we have to know where that line is drawn and be decisive one way or another on either side of it.
So would we be able to request from our 2 members of council that we find out what council's will is don't explore this. It is what it is. And we'll do our best to come forward with a spending package that would reflect what we feel would be, to make sure that, that we're equitable, that all of a sudden we're not having to tell people, oh, we can't do it this year. Nobody bid, or it came in over budget, or, then now you have to drag that pile back, or now you're stuck with it, or, I'm just looking for, or nothing, that, we're this is dead on the table and we'll just carry on. And I'm just wondering if we should seek to explore this any further, or is there a cap that we should go at? Something along those lines.
I'd be afraid to do that, Guy, to tell you the truth. I think what it is, we just handle it as it comes. In this particular case, like when you're sending in your budget numbers for us to approve type of thing, then it would probably be a wise idea on your part to be reaching out before that time when you're getting your numbers type of thing, and so say, you're going to go to the tree management companies type of thing. You're going to say, hey, what are we looking at this time? If you were to do a chipping contract, what's it going to be? And you're just going to get what the market rate is. Realize I've been around long enough too, guys, to, it's all cycles. So the thing is that the market is extremely high right now. The market of increases is extremely high too. But I've been at the other end, and typically it's 7-year cycles. So a 7-year cycle. So we're at the very top of that cycle right now. And it was created a little more of a boost, of course, because of the pandemic. We've never had that before. But many people were calling for it was going to be a depression after this pandemic because the whole world was just going to change. Well, quite the opposite happened. So the economists were just blown right out of the chair. So the thing is that it's turned the other way, that actually contractors and builders have been extremely busy. So it's all supply and demand. I know that we're in a boom right now, but I also know that it's going to come down again, folks. It's going to come back down again. So all those tree forest companies that won't be bidding on it now because they're so darn busy, 6 to 7 years from now, they're going to be begging for any contract they can get from the city of Parksville. So with that, you get competitive bids, and then they're bidding against each other. Then they're trying to get the job for all the reasons you mentioned before. So we just have to recognize we're at the high time of a cycle. We can't control market, but the thing is that recognize that we always won't be that way. But I think it's just a matter of, if you find out what the number is going to be in your budget and you bring it to council, and if council says, oh, we think that's outrageous, that's the time I think that the council will say, this amount of money is outrageous. I don't think we'll approve this budget.
And it's so the project starts next week. So we start and the budget just got finished up this week, right? So the timelines are close for us there. I think maybe and people assume that they were going to be doing it, so they already had their piles out, 6 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago or a month ago. It might be beneficial or advantageous for us to reach out to past proponents next year, a little earlier on, perhaps, before we hit the holiday season there at the end of December, and say, hey, we're going to be running this project again, similar to we have times past. We'd be interested to know what you would come forward with if you're interested at all. So maybe that's something that we need to do is rather than just opening it up to everybody, reach out to, people that we know that we've worked with in the past, that we trust, and that are good contractors, and see if they're interested.
Yeah, and I certainly wasn't suggesting for this year at all.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, I'm suggesting for further. But yeah, you know who the guys are with the chipper trucks and stuff like that. So, and it would be probably worthwhile, to, as you say, fall time, that's when you're looking at it. I think that's great. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. It's just one more increase that we're facing. That's for sure.
Well, that's the benefit of meeting with the both of you here. Is we're able to, these things that are kind of in the background burning away that are concerning. I've had it written on my board for 9 months now. So, and just kind of going, oh, we need to figure out what we're going to do here. So I appreciate both your input and it gives us some guidance on where to go. And I think, we're checking the waters here with you two, and that's a similar reflection. So that works for us. I have a lawnmower going by my window. I'm sure you can hear that.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, a few passes. Good to see he's keeping us looking neat and tidy.
Good.
With that though, that's pretty much the agenda for this meeting, gentlemen. And
can I throw a couple of questions through it? You just as an update, Guy?
Sure.
Just quickly, pickleball courts. We know that sooner or later, everybody's going to be back playing again, and it looks like it's coming up quicker now with the vaccinations and so forth. And with the pickleball weather coming as well, we're going to have the pickleball representatives coming and say, so how is that coming? I understand we have a application for a grant anyways in-house that we haven't heard yet. We're successful for the resurfacing of tennis court and the cross box. Is that's correct? And we haven't heard back?
No.
Yeah. Rough idea when you anticipate hearing if we're successful on that grant?
I think if it's similar to the last time, the CCR that we, is that May, June timeframe. I think the last time I had this discussion with the manager of communications who sort of works this stuff for us, that's what I was led to believe. I do keep very close contact with both of the pickleballs, so both POPs and OCP. I talk with them probably every once a month. I meet with them regularly down there, and they're very, very aware of where we're at. They're very aware of, even if this is approved, if we get the go ahead and by the time we get all the ducks in a row, it's not this year. It's not, they're not, it's going to be, and then it'll be during typical construction season, most likely of next year or this fall, if we can get everything in line. We have to do all the design, and the grant request as well was for the kin hut replacement as well.
Right.
So, that's going to increase the scope of what we have to work with as well. It's not just, the resurface, it's the whole package. And how we break this up into 2 or 3 separate contracts, one for just pickleball and one's the development of this. And so all that still has to be worked out given, the success or failure of our grant application. So in the end, the money that we had allocated for pickleball development for what we have now that we put into the grant request, the money from council is short to make those things amends. So we would have to, if we're not successful with our grant application, we would have to come back to council and ask what their direction is moving forward.
Yeah, I know. It's just I feel that we've been leading the pickleballers on for so long now, type of thing, and they have been very patient on it. I was just wondering if the grant applications weren't coming forth very quickly. Is this not something, and Councillor Fraz could maybe weigh in on this too? Could we not use our gas tax fund anyways for this, because
that's outside of my sphere of influence.
Well, we've just been discussing it in our budget lately, type of thing. So the thing is that being on our own property type of thing, and community it's a possibility is all I'm saying. The reason why I'm going this is because I'm getting word already from the construction trades that concrete and asphalt pricing is going up as well. Yeah. And this is only the first step that we're seeing right now. This 40% jump is only the first step. And they're saying by the end of the year, if all the Canada grants come through that have been requested, supply and demand, again, here we go. But the asphalt companies, whatever you're budgeting for the resurfacing of those carts, it's going to go up. So I'm saying the sooner that we can get it done, the cheaper it's going to be. That's all I'm getting at.
Sure. No, and understood.
Pardon me.
So thank you.
And I also have to say that I saw the recent additions to the Foster Park trail, and I see the new bug hotels. And I think they're fantastic. I don't know if you've seen them yet, Councillor Fraz. You have to take your daughter through Foster Park to see if she can find the bug, I think they're called bug hotels or critter hotels. So I saw two while I was there just this past week. I was blown away. The concept is awesome. Anyways, I saw the bug hotels. I hope you have a very low vacancy rate and they're very well received. Pardon me.
Warren might want to speak to that really quickly, that about how that came about, and it's a testament to the passion and the engagement and the commitment of our staff. Warren.
I would like to say that we do have some great park staff, and they bring forward some fantastic ideas. And Friends of Foster Park are probably our most active and involved group, and they've been kind of working with us hand in hand. They've been doing volunteer work this whole winter, going in and removing blackberry and English ivy, and also some of the spurge, laurel, daphne that's been a problem in the park. So we've also planted, I don't even remember, I think it was about 2,000 trees last year. And the Friends of Foster Park also raised money for the 25 new trees, ornamental trees out in the front of the park. Plus they raised additional money for, I forget, several hundred, 600-800 additional plants in the forested area. So it's been really a really great relationship for staff with them, and we feel like we've accomplished a lot. We've got a bit more to do in the park. Obviously, there's a little bit more trail work to do in there, but we're really pleased how things are shaping up. And now we just need the trees to grow, and we'll be back in good standing again.
That's just a great community down there. So it's great that they've aligned themselves so closely with your staff too, because this collaboration, it just goes so far, and it's great to have the community involved. Great job, you guys. Really good.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Frass.
I have a couple of questions for you, Guy. One of them just in regards to the community park with the trampolines down there. I noticed they've been covered up out of commission for a bit. I'm wondering if you give us an update as when they expect to be back serviceable. And with that in mind too, congratulations on the resurfacing grant. I saw that come through, which is looks like the next phase, but maybe you can touch on to that $300, I believe $15,000 towards resurfacing, how many phases that will complete and where we'll be left with after that is used.
So Warren and I might tag team on this one. To start off with the 315. So there was a complete plan that was put in place back in 2018, 2017, 2018 for the rubberized surface at Community Park. So the piece that we're looking at doing now is adjacent to sort of the caterpillar structure,
yeah,
and the larger other structure itself. The contractor, supplier, installer, Marathon Surfaces, who was awarded the bid back in 2018, has at that time had said that they would keep their pricing the same for 5 years. Well, as we've just been discussing, Councillor O'Brien and the rest of us, that we realize that that's not possible. But they have come back with, and I don't want to get too far into it at this point, I don't think, that's very favorable. So we will be able to add some new components in there as well as the rubber surface that goes underneath. They kind of have to be done hand in hand, right? We can't pour a surface and then put pieces on top of that surface. It's got to be done at the same time. So the surfacing includes some pieces as well. That was put in as a grant application. So it's the footprint itself. So we're still a little bit going back and forth trying to make sure it's going to fit within the grant. And we were just notified of this, on Wednesday. So we've reached out already and started having these communications. We will be better served as an organization, both Warren and I feel, to stay the course that we started with Marathon rather than going back out to market. If we go back out to market, we're going to get, most likely we'll get burned, because as we're going to get, the costs have gone up. The plant that makes the adhesive in Texas has been closed for 9 months. All these things that we don't typically think of, the supply chain that's been affected may have a bit of an impact on that. But we're some conversations that took place today, we're looking positive that we're going to be able to get this to come forward and And
What kind of percentage increase are you looking at then? It sounds like it's not to bring it to 100% completion of the resurfacing, but this is just increasing by one more stage perhaps. And what percentage would that be? A 15% increase, or
what do you think,
just
Warren?
kind of work?
Yeah, I think, I
20?
think you're about right, about 20%, about an eighth. That was originally divided into, maybe a bit more than that actually, but originally divided into 8 phases. And we completed about 3 phases originally in that original application. So probably about another phase and a bit. I was just looking for, I did have an image that I could share, but just trying to find it where I saved it. They changed my computer yesterday, so everything's moved around, unfortunately.
Maybe while you're looking for that, Guy, would you be able to touch on the trampolines in the park there?
So I know that we were waiting there. Trampolines were on order. Go ahead, Warren, please.
Sorry, the long story short, one is open today, as of today, this morning. And the second one, they were reinstalled by our Lions Club members. And in order for the adhesive to work, had to be 10 degrees or greater. And so we've actually been we've had them for quite a while. We've been holding them, waiting for the weather to improve. It took them most of the day to complete the one. And so they took today off. And I would expect next decent day, they'll be back in there and putting in the second one. So one is active and has been inspected and is active.
Can I ask what the issue was with them? Was it just typical wear and tear? Were they vandalized, or what was the problem with them?
Yeah, I would say a little bit of both. It's got it's got a metal plate around the trampoline, and then it's got rubber tiles around the perimeter of that. And there had been some vandalism. I don't think that they're necessarily glued down. The glue maybe didn't work around the first time, and so that you could pull it up a little bit and snap pieces of that rubber surfacing off. And then there was a bit of wear on the springs as well. So we ended up replacing all the springs and the rubber tile that's around the perimeter of those. So that's all completed.
Okay, thanks. And then aside from that surfacing, I did have one other question on a different topic though, but we wanted a chance to pull up the image and I was looking for it. He has it. While he's looking, Guy, maybe I'll just carry on then here. The question I had for you is, where are we at with signage in the park? And in particular, I know we had talked in the past about bikes on the boardwalk, requesting that people consider walking them rather than enforcing it as I get off your bike, just putting up signage that says, like, you know, please be considerate, walk your bike on the path there. But we haven't implemented any of that. You know, the community's been very patient. I still hear the same kind of concerns out and about there. So I'm wondering where we're at, and if it is going to take a long time to come up with a solution, could we not carry forward with what we initially said by just putting out some additional signage out there that request people walk their bikes?
That may be a question, if I could, to defer to our CAO.
Okay.
If I could. There's been conversation, we've gone back and forth a bit about signage, be it either educational or regulatory. Is it information? Is it informative? I think that there is willingness to have a sign strategy put in place, something along those lines of why we're putting in where we are, and who's going to be driving that, if I can put it that way. I have done nothing. I have done nothing with the signs other than have the conversations with my managers, and I have been not given any directive to go forward at this time with that. So I'm I think it would be best to, the CAO may be able to help shed some light on that, if I could defer to that.
Would it be beneficial if a couple councillors maybe put a notice of motion in anyways, just to say that we need some signs up, albeit temporary or whatever, about disallowing bicycles on the boardwalk? Would that be helpful at this particular time, Guy? Because this is as Councillor Fraz has pointed out, this has been ongoing for 2 years, and I witnessed it just last Friday, and it was bizarre. I just could not believe how ignorant this individual was on his bicycle, weaving around, and actually drove over somebody's leash. So the dog's leash had wandered across, and he actually drove over the leash and just motored on through. And there was quite a few comments down there. So I think Councillor Fraz is very right in bringing it up again, because the thing is that I think something needs to be done. There's going to be an accident down there, and
I'm sure if either one or both of you want to bring that forward and see what the rest of council's willingness is on this, and get us to have some direction provided down, then we can go from there.
So Ryan, how do you think to go about this there? Like, should we bring it forward as a recommendation through the committee here? It is something that I would support, getting some kind of signage, even just being temporary until some proper signage can be put in place, or a strategy in there. I don't think it has to be something that's enforceable as far as like sending bylaw down because someone's on the bike, but just what I see is that people just aren't cognizant of the consideration that this is a walking path, and maybe get off your bike and walk it. They just go down there to enjoy the scenery like anybody else, but since they brought their bike, stay on your bike kind of thing. I think if they had some kind of something to bring their attention to it, to think about getting off your bike and walking it, I think people would.
Yes, and I agree 100%, because the thing is that the question and the controversy came up regarding, are these enforceable or are they just courtesy signs? And we said, I remember at the time suggesting, well, it doesn't really matter if it's enforceable type of thing. We're not looking for enforcement here. What we're looking at is the good neighbor policy, is that as a matter of courtesy, please dismount off your bicycle in consideration of others. As simple as that. And I think that would satisfy and would help probably 85% of the problem. And there's always going to be people that don't follow signs, whether it's enforced or not. So I just think it's we're not doing our jobs by just saying, but we're waiting for a more general sign policy or procedures to happen, because the longer you wait before you put up a stop sign, more people are going to get hurt. So the thing is that if we just put in one as a courtesy sign, I understand the policy problems, but at the same time, I also understand the real time issues of someone getting hurt. So I believe, Councillor Fraz, that in our report, it would be probably wise for us to bring it up anyways. And if we could get a little bit of council discussion going in our reporting time, and then if we can ask for a notice of motion right at that particular time, I think that's the time to do it.
Sure, yeah. Okay, that sounds good to me, because this is the time of year now when it's people are getting out and about, and when everyone's going to be kind of coming together on that boardwalk as well. So
yeah. So that would be my preference, I guess. Please do.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can understand. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for listening to that. And it sounds like Warren has a comment here, or maybe he's found that photo.
Yeah, just if we're ready, I was going to share the screen with the depiction of the playground.
Yes, please.
Okay, hopefully you can see the image of the playground from above. You can see the area that was surfaced. The area under the zip line here was a separate budget. So the phases that we did, this was phase 1 and 2, where the swing area, the island here, the waves, and around the ship. We are considering this location for the next phase because it's mostly a vacant area. As we talked about, this wave piece of equipment could be moved to either an open space or perhaps stay within that safety zone. If we haven't done any measurements yet, we don't have pricing, so we're not sure how much we're going to be able to surface, but we would also like to surface this top area here because it is newly completed, as in it has new equipment, and so therefore would be suitable for doing surface underneath. The pink area on the back side here, and then the white area with the multi-slide, both of those units are 20 plus years, 20 to 25 years, I believe, old. So we're kind of nursing them along, certainly with a lot of help from the Lions Club But we do have an expectation that we'll need to look at replacements for those within the next, I see top end 5 years, 2-3 years perhaps. So I think that's something that we probably would like to bring forward to committee at another meeting, is to getting direction on how to proceed with there. We have another large area, mostly vacant here in the green. And then this area with the helicopter and the umbrella is also pretty much complete too, but it wouldn't make much sense to do one of these without the other. So I would say I would be hopeful that we could get the blue and the purple area complete in this budget, but we'll have to see as to the budget for $315,000 also includes the equipment, the installation of the equipment, and the subsurface prep, as well as the surfacing. So it's a lot to accomplish with that much funding. So we're certainly hopeful though, and we'll do as much as we can, and certainly very excited to be able to see another piece of new equipment going into the park.
Thanks for that image there. I really like seeing the visual of it. It helps a lot. And it's going to be sad, I think, for when that piece of equipment in the pink there gets replaced. I know it's a well-loved and played on. They often see children playing tag and things like that around that, because there's lots of areas to run and jump off of in that. So it's well-loved.
Yeah, I do think that's a good point, in that we're not looking to fill every space of the park with equipment. Certainly would like to see surfacing, in that the surfacing is much easier for us to inspect, and the sand becomes compacted and has issues there and wears out the equipment. But there needs to be room between pieces for, the safe travel of kids between equipment, and some open space there too. So there's lots we can do with 2D imaging on the ground with like the whale shapes and things like that still make it a kind of a play area without it being necessarily a piece of equipment. So we are recognizing those things too.
Good. Thanks, Warren. Yeah, exciting times. There's sure a heck of a lot going on in the city of Parksville right now. That's for darn sure. We're a busy bunch of beavers, that's for sure. So with that said, I would ask for adjournment for the April 1st Parks and Open Space Committee meeting.
Yeah, I'll move to adjourn.